Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, as we know, we're studying Swami Chaitanyananda's book on the life of Holy Mother called Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play. And this will be the last class for 2021. We'll suspend classes until the beginning of the year. It will be Christmas and all of those other Holy Day activities. And so we'll attend to that rather than these classes for that period. Is there anything before we start that anyone would like to add or say about what we've been studying, or anything else having to do with the activities of this group? All right, dears. We'll begin. Our reader, of course, so sweetly and kindly is Haima. And Haima, if you would begin.
Sure, Brother Shankara. We are on page 578, and the subtopic is compassion for the poor. It was 30th September 1918, Maha Ashtami, the second day of Durga Puja. Many devotees assembled in Udbodhan house to pay their respects to Holy Mother. Sarajubala Sen recorded the following. It was the time of the noonday worship when a party of 3 men and 3 women from a distant part of the country came to pay their respects to Holy Mother. They were very poor, all their possessions consisting of 1 piece of cloth each. They had begged for their passage money to Calcutta. One of the party, a man, was having a private talk with the mother. There seemed to be no end to the conversation. The time for the noon food offering was passing, and the mother was supposed to offer it. The mother's attendants became annoyed. One of them said to the devotee in unmistakable language, "If you have anything more to say, you better go downstairs and talk to the monks." But the mother said firmly, "It does not matter if it gets late. I must hear what they have to say." That was very nice. She continued to listen to him with great patience. In a whisper, she gave him some instructions. Then she sent for his wife as well. We inferred that they must have experienced something in a dream. Later on, we came to learn that they had received a sacred mantra in a dream. After about an hour, they took prasad and left. The mother said, "Alas, they are very poor. They have come here with great hardship." There is a saying, the measure of love is compassion. The measure of compassion is kindness. Many people came to the mother for peace and consolation. In 1913, a middle-aged man came to the mother with his grief-stricken daughter, who was 17 years old. He said, "Mother, this is my daughter. She had a baby girl who died this morning. She is overcome with grief. So I have brought her to you for consolation." Holy Mother asked the girl to come near her. But when the girl extended her hand to touch the mother's feet, the mother remarked, "How can you touch me? You are now in the period of mourning." At this, that girl's sad face became even more gloomy. She drew back and felt helpless. Seeing her sorrowful face, the mother exclaimed with great empathy, "Ah, my child, you are grief-stricken and have come to me for solace, and I hurt you. Set aside that custom, my child. Bow down and touch my feet." She moved close to the girl, who then fell at the mother's feet, crying. Holy Mother touched her head and blessed her. She again consoled her, saying, "Have devotion for the Master. Please open your heart to him whenever you have pain and suffering." She continued, "She has just gotten a shock. Is it possible for her to be calm today?" The girl's father was standing near the door. After a while, the father and the daughter gathered themselves to some extent, bowed down to the mother and left.
Let's just pause and reflect. One of the points being made here is that overemphasis on ceremony, the time that things should be done, the customs that say this should or should not be done. In the moment, those are to be set aside when there is reason to honor the person whose need is greater than the significance of that ceremony or custom. This is what the mother was showing us. And this is why Chaitanya included these in this book, so that we can see, yes, it's time for this to happen, but this person is in great need, in great pain. So let the time issue go. All of you can understand exactly what this was about. But I didn't want it to go unremarked. This is part of our manana. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say about this particular aspect that the Swami brought forward by including these under the heading of compassion for the poor. Okay, Haima, please go ahead.
I just want to make one comment, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
This is a good point he left it in this book. He gave it in this book, because a lot of times people are so absorbed by the customs, they forget the compassion part. Occasionally it happens, not all the time. Once in a while in my country, in India, it does happen quite a bit because of the customs. They forget to give the compassion to the needy. So that's a good point. Thank you.
And as Swami Vivekananda pointed out, all of those things are secondary details. The divine being, which is embodied in each human form, is the important point. That potential divinity that is to be honored. So this, there's a word in English that this overemphasis on ceremony and form and custom and so on is called punctiliousness, being punctilious. And I really like that word. It's so expressive, so onomatopoetic. It sounds like what it is. Punctilious. So anyway, dear.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Next subheading of the topic is Actress's Visit Woodboden House. As the sun shines on everything equally, so God's love flows evenly towards saints and sinners. Krishna says in the Gita, I am the same towards all beings. To me, there is none hateful or dear. Even the most sinful man, if he worships me with unswerving devotion, must be regarded as righteous, for he has formed the right resolution. He soon becomes righteous and attains eternal peace. Proclaim it boldly, O son of Kunti, that my devotee never perishes. Do you want me to read that one more time, Brother Shankara?
Please, from
Very
the beginning.
profound.
Yes.
As the sun shines on everything equally, so God's love flows evenly towards saints and sinners. Krishna says in the Gita, I am the same towards all beings. To me, there is none hateful or dear. Even the most sinful man, if he worships me with unswerving devotion, must be regarded as righteous, for he has formed the right resolution. He soon becomes righteous and attains eternal peace. Proclaim it boldly, O son of Kunti, that my devotee never perishes.
And if we needed any example of this, just consider the case of Girish Ghosh
Exactly.
and Sri Ramakrishna. Girish Ghosh was about as sinful a man as he knew how to be. And he even said, I think only half jokingly at one time, after Sri Ramakrishna's passing, if I had known that I was going to be so forgiving, be so forgiven and so transformed by the Master, I might have been even more, I might have found even more ways to sin. And I think he was only half joking.
So,
So the idea is that we, along with the divine being, if we are to embody our own divinity, will not judge others. We have no idea what's going on within them and what their relationship was with the divine. I mean, you could not have told, particularly in the beginning, you could not have told that there was any real attraction between Girish Ghosh and Sri Ramakrishna because he abused him, he cursed him, he practically physically assaulted him because he was so drunk and so ignorant. So we have no idea what's going on within another human being. They may not seem outwardly to be in any way righteous. As that's, I'm just using the word that Krishna uses. But it is not to our advantage. It is not auspicious for us to sit in judgment of them. We may avoid their company. We may avoid their company simply because it's so distracting to be with someone who is acting out, as they say, so vigorously. But don't imagine that we know who they are, what they are. They are the divine being in whatever state of transformation they are in.
My opinion of it, Brother Shankara, is that, like, whose business is it of mine to judge another person? I mean, it really isn't. Like, I have no. I mean, what do I know about them? You know, how could I possibly judge another person? So,
Yes. It's very difficult, though, when they abuse us personally.
yeah, absolutely.
That's when the rubber really meets the road. When they either abuse us personally or they abuse someone that we're close to and care for. Then, as we've seen, even in the example of Holy Mother, examples given in earlier subheadings here, that Mother would intervene on behalf of someone being abused, but she wouldn't, well, if we recollect back, she wouldn't judge the other person. She would simply give them instructions on how to behave. She would remove some of their ignorance. Thank you, Aaron. You're absolutely right. It's none of our business. And besides, it's a waste of our time. We don't have that much time here. It may seem like a lot of years, but it's really not that long. And so better not to spend our time and our thoughts ruminating about the transgressions of others. Anything else from anyone?
I'm slowly getting to realize, like,
Rajiv, you need to get closer to your machine. We're not hearing you well.
yeah, it's my Bluetooth headphone. Sometimes it creates a problem.
Yes.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
yes.
So, I was sort of trying to study meditation and like the mental chatter and all of that and all the gossip thing and, judge and all of that. And I thought that I sort of, I'm trying to, like, I'm getting to realize that we don't even know, like, we are so, I mean, I'll talk about myself, not about us, but like everybody. But when I look back, I see like 2 years back or 3 years back, 95% of my time was like unconscious in mental chatter and all of these things, like completely unaware, and then I used to say that I don't have time, but I was just wasting my mental energy and thoughts. And
What a good insight, Rajiv. And it's often said from here, if we do our spiritual practices routinely for a period of time, you mentioned 3 years, and then we look back, as was your insight, you see so clearly how differently you used to think, speak, and act. And you get a sense of the transformation that Sri Krishna is just talking about here. In another place, he says, holiness itself shall transform you.
Yes.
And brother, there is also a scientific aspect to it. Like a couple of days back, I was reading on the internet about the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and he mentions that there are like these 5 aklishtas, and it is so evident. And I was thinking that why, like, this should be a part of our school education. I mean, even more than spirituality, it's material. Like if I have to study, if I have to earn money, if I have to do my job, I need to focus. And we are not taught these things, and we end up wasting our time, like 30, 35 years. Sometimes the whole life is wasted.
Rajiv, you're absolutely right. And education, we look at the society we're embedded in as spiritual aspirants, and we see what the values are of this society. They are consumption and production and consumption. And that is then, of course, the emphasis of the education that is given to those people. And many educators lament this, but it's as long as we live in a society that measures its value by its gross domestic product, its GDP, then what you just said is not likely to happen, that we are taught, even though we would be even more productive, as you pointed out. But those people who govern these things, they do not see that. So, I mean, the most beautiful prescription for childhood education was given by Aldous Huxley in his book Island. If anybody wants to read about how children should be educated, just read Aldous Huxley's book Island, and it is brilliant. It's a novel. It tells a story, but it is also a morality tale about comparing and contrasting how children are educated outside of this island and inside of this island. Thank you, Rajiv. You're absolutely right.
Thank you, brother.
Anybody else have anything to add or ask?
I just want to give some little bit of information. In Denver schools, Brother Shankara, they are adding a little bit of meditation stuff for the children, breathing exercises, so that they would focus better in exams and then before the classes start, because my granddaughter tells me.
I can't talk. I'm in class. I'll call you back.
So my granddaughter told me that they do a little bit of breathing exercise and just a few minutes of meditation. So I think now society is realizing a little bit the benefit of this breathing, slow breathing and meditation. So yes. I heard through her. So there is a little bit of awareness in Denver schools That's what I keep hearing.
Mindfulness meditation is being taught mindfulness because it's secular. That is to say, it doesn't have an overt spiritual
Yes.
aspect. Mindfulness meditation is being taught in some schools, and it is also being taught in some prisons
Yes,
to
exactly.
very good effect.
I heard about that.
So this practice of meditation, it has such surprising results for
Definitely.
those people who practice it, that they just glom onto it. They not all of them, of course, but many of them really become very, very devoted to it and
Yes.
continue the practice.
Even the drug addiction centers, mindfulness is on the top of their list, Brother Shankara. That's I used to run a class, teach mindfulness, just mindfulness itself in Atlanta when I was living there.
Well, why? Because there's drug people who are addicted to anything, but especially to drugs and alcohol, are self-medicating.
That's right.
For what? Their pain.
Just to numb the pain.
When to escape the pain, yes.
Exactly.
And so when they learn a different way, then they are more likely to stop their self-medicating practices. So again, not everyone.
Not everyone, exactly. So it benefits some people, definitely.
But just a few is better than none.
It also gives them tools not to ruminate on the past. Start from that moment itself and then go forward. That's number one of the mindfulness.
Well,
Think of this minute.
Right. Well, one of the most difficult things for people who suffer from addictive behavior
Yes.
is they have this so-called grudge bag of resentments about how their life has developed for them. And that's part of what they're self-medicating for, of course. Well, let's not take up too much time with that.
Yes, sure.
But certainly the mother's compassion has come forward. The master's compassion and the mother's compassion has come forward in these more prevalent practices and in the great essays like Aldous Huxley's Book Island. Anything else from anyone? All right. Ramakrishna told
his devotees, all the sins of the body fly away if one chants the name of God and sings his glories. The birds of sin dwell in the tree of the body. Singing the name of God is like clapping your hands. As at a clap of the hands, the birds in the tree fly away, so do our sins disappear at the chanting of God's name and glories.
Chaitanya's prayer, Sri Chaitanya's prayer, opens this way. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. And the master is just exactly echoing that and saying, he uses different metaphor, the birds in the tree and so on. Clapping your hands will cause them to fly away. This is a metaphor for purification of the heart and for quenching of this seemingly irresistible, unstoppable forest fire of worldly lust. Well, it's not that unconquerable, but we have to do what is suggested here. So please read that again.
Sure. Ramakrishna told his devotees, all the sins of the body fly away if one chants the name of God and sings his glories. The birds of sin dwell in the tree of the body. Singing the name of God is like clapping your hands. As at a clap of the hands, the birds in the tree fly away, so do our sins disappear at the chanting of God's name and glories. What a reassuring message. Tara Sundari and Tinkari, two superstars of Calcutta theatre, had heard Ramakrishna's message. Though the two actresses had not met Ramakrishna, they had heard his message through Girish Chandra Ghosh, their director and mentor. Later, they visited Holy Mother at Udbodhan House and received her blessing.
Now, for those of you who don't know, actresses in Calcutta at that time were regarded as just a tiny cut above street prostitutes. So these two women, this is how they were regarded by most people. As Swami Vivekananda said, when he was young, he was a fanatic about this. And he would cross the street so that when he came into the theater district, he would cross the street so that he wouldn't have to walk on the same pavement where these people of ill repute and ill fame frequented, where they walked. So he wouldn't be under their influence in any way. So later on, he said, I could live in a house of prostitution and not recognize any sinfulness. So anyway, please, Ima, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. One's birth is in the hands of providence, but one's karma is one's own responsibility. These actresses were born in the red light district of Calcutta and did not know who their fathers were. Their mothers were active in the world's ancient profession, and they grew up in misery and poverty. Orthodox society shunned them. They were not even allowed a formal education. But the acting talent of Tarasundari and Tinkari enabled them to overcome all these obstacles. Their self-effort and sincerity, patience and perseverance, passion and ambition led them to the pinnacle of success in life. A blazing fire cannot be hidden, nor can a great talent. Tara Sundari and Tinkari sometimes visited Holy Mother at Udbodhan House, but they never entered the mother's room where the master's shrine was located. Instead, they bowed down to the master and Holy Mother from outside the door. Holy Mother loved them and always asked them to stay for lunch. Afterwards, she would give them each a betel roll. One day after they left, the mother remarked, "These girls have genuine devotion. Whenever they call on God, they do it with one point in mind."
Now, one of the reasons that they could do that is because of their training as actresses. You simply can't go on stage and play your part if your mind is wandering. You can't. You have to stay focused in that moment. You have to pick up your cues and say your lines properly so that the other person can respond. And I mean, this is why Girish Ghosh wrote these elaborate and beautiful plays. And these people were able to portray them. So their devotion was also one-pointed because they had trained their minds. And so, as was pointed out by Rajiv earlier, training one's mind, as is pointed out in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, has tremendous benefits when we begin to enter spiritual life. A trained mind will make it much simpler for us to be one-pointed, stay focused. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay. Oh, yes.
One question. So I imagine like spiritual practice is like basically not possible if you can't remain one-pointed. I mean, maybe you can make progress here and there, but you're never going to reach the like highest.
Well, you're a musician, Aaron. Rather than learning lines that you say on a stage and so on, you learn to stay focused by playing your guitar well and integrating your singing with the guitar. Swami Vivekananda said, and he mentioned specifically playing instruments. He may have even mentioned playing guitar, I don't remember. But he said that this was as good as meditation, particularly if the music that you were playing was spiritual music. But he didn't differentiate entirely. So, yes, we will make better progress if we have a one-pointed mind. But the devotee's path, the bhakta's path, is a generous, this is one of the reasons it's a slower path. The devotee's path, they may not have that focus. They may have a little focus that allows them to do some ritual worship or so on. But they may not have but their heart, as Sri Krishna pointed out to Arjuna earlier, their heart is sincere and their longing is sincere. So they may not be focused, but so there's more than one way. We have to be careful about thinking there's only one way. This is why there are the 4 yogas that we're taught. And of course, there's more to Sanatana Dharma, vastly more than the 4 yogas. But this is what Swami Vivekananda chose to bring to us. He said, I have a mission to the West, as the Buddha had a mission to the East. And so his mission was to teach us these 4 yogas, leave to us these instruction manuals, so to speak. And each of the paths is quite different. So a bhakta's path, a devotee's path, may not have, particularly in the beginning, that strength of one-pointedness. They may come to that after they begin to practice some concentration and meditation. But contemplation is discursive. Contemplation, you're thinking about the various aspects of things. You stay focused on what you're contemplating on, so there's that much one-pointedness. But it's not the same one-pointedness as staying deeply focused on a mantra, where that's all, it becomes the only thought in your mind, the mantra does. And finally, that one thought of the mantra is replaced by what it is addressing. And that becomes the one great thought that replaces the mantra, and this is Savikalpa Samadhi. So it's a long trail of winding, and there are lots of side roads and detours, and we must never judge ourselves any more than we judge others when we find, oh, I've been on a detour. We must lovingly return to the main path and loving ourselves, lovingly return to the main path and say, well, so I took a detour. Never compromising the ideal, but never being judgmental about the fact that you fell short of the ideal either. Swami Vivekananda said, we fall 1,000 times. We rise 1,001 times. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Brother, apart from the mantra, are there any like specific exercise to sort of develop, like strong exercises to develop like that one-pointedness or ability to stay one-pointedness in anything? Because sometimes like we like something and it's easy to be one-pointed, but sometimes we may not like something, but we have to do it. And how to practice being one-pointed in these situations?
Well, you mentioned Patanjali's Yoga Sutras earlier, dear. Read chapter 2 closely. Well, read the whole thing, of course. Swami Vivekananda's translation and commentary is tremendously powerful, but it's a little hard to understand. So Swami Prabhavananda wrote How to Know God, which is Swami Prabhavananda's specialty was writing in modern English for the Western reader and bringing forward what is meant by Patanjali in language that's very easy to understand, or easier to understand. So first read chapters 1 and 2, and then go into chapter 3, where the powers are enumerated. And one of the things that is brought out is a number of practices, not the ones leading to occult powers, but the ones leading to deeper ability to concentrate, called samyama or samyama. It seems to be pronounced differently, but it is the combination of concentration and meditation. So that instruction book is there for us. Thank you, Rajiv,
Thank you, brother,
for bringing that up. Anything else from anyone? Okay. We've got time left. Please, let's go ahead.
Sure. During Holy Mother's last illness, Tara Sundari visited her quite often. Swami Ishanananda recalled, one day at noon, Tara Sundari, the famous actress of the Star Theatre, came to visit Holy Mother. Mother's body was very weak, so she was lying on the floor of her room, surrounded by some women. Tara bowed down to her and sat down outside her door. She spoke to the mother softly and with great reverence. Mother said, "You act very well in the theater. It is hard to recognize you when you appear on the stage with your costume and makeup. Why don't you recite something for us?" Tara sometimes acted in the role of a man. She saluted the mother with folded hands and then recited a part of the heroic role of Prabir in the play Prabir Arjun, actually Jana. Afterwards, the mother said to her, "My child, come another day." Tara again saluted the mother and left with some prasad in hand. Another afternoon, Tara unexpectedly arrived in a taxi and brought 4 or 5 baskets of gifts: sweets, curd, mangosteens, oranges, bananas, grapes, pomegranates, pineapples, and other fruit, as well as flowers and bouquets of tuberoses, saris for mother, Radhu, Maku, and Nalini, and woolen shoes for Radhu's and Maku's children. Mother had a slight fever and she was in bed. Tara bowed down to her from outside the door. Mother asked me to put the gifts in the middle room. When Tara left with some prasad, Mother asked me to distribute some of the things to Radhu, Maku, and other workers of the household. Sometimes an exciting and glamorous life. Sure.
Let's just pause.
Sure.
This woman, Tara, after the mother's passing, she would also come to see Swami Brahmananda, Raja Maharaj, who was president of the Ramakrishna order. And in that case, she was welcomed into his presence, into his room, into his office, or wherever it was that he was. You can see that this woman's generosity, I mean, she obviously had money because of her position, and perhaps even because she was someone's mistress, who knows. But definitely the mother accepted, notice that the mother accepted her gifts and distributed them. So once again, notice the lack of judgment. Mother didn't say, "Oh, this is excessive, we can't accept this," or something like that. No. I mean, she brought all of these gifts out of her love and generosity. How sweet, how appropriate. Any other comment or question from anyone? Okay.
Sometimes an exciting and glamorous life is also exhausting and stressful. To refresh herself, Tara Sundari often visited Holy Mother or the Master's disciples. Swami Parameshananda recalled, one afternoon at 2 o'clock, Tara Sundari came to visit Swami Saradananda at Udbodhan House. She brought a large quantity of sweets and fruit to offer to the master, and I put them in the storeroom and gave her a small carpet on which to sit on the upper floor near the steps. She pushed away the seat and sat on the bare floor. Swami Saradananda was then resting, so I asked her to wait. I had seen Girish's play Prafulla at the Star Theatre, and I told her that I had seen her performance in that play. Tara replied, Swami, I am glad that you enjoyed the women's performances in the play. They act in such a way that the audience feels that they are like goddesses. You are a young monk, so you don't know what a sinful life they have led. As they act, tears flow through one eye and a smile shines through the other. I asked, why don't you recite something for us? Tara then began to recite some lines from a tragedy, and tears trickled from her eyes. Her sari even became wet. She then recited a portion of the title role from Girish's play Jana. When Arjuna killed Jana's son, Prabir, in battle, her heart was devastated by grief and she cried profusely. Afterwards, Jana wanted to take revenge. Like the Greek goddess Nemesis, she roared and burst into loud laughter. The whole house was reverberated with the sound of that laughter. Thus, Tara demonstrated how actresses can cry and laugh alternately. When Swami Saradananda heard the noise, he got up and washed his face in the bathroom to get ready to receive his visitors. When I entered his room, he asked, "Who has come?" I told him that it was the actress Tara, and recounted my conversation with her. The Swami then said to me, "Well, you have learned a wonderful lesson from her." He then instructed me to send Tara's offerings of fruits and sweets to the Kali temple. I took Tara to Swami Saradananda. She bowed down to him and sat near the threshold of his room. Swami Saradananda always saluted women by bowing his head. When they began to talk, I left the room. Girish inspired many actors and actresses and told them about Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and the disciples of the Master. Tinkari met Holy Mother for the first time when she went with the Tara Sundari to Udbodhan House in Calcutta. Holy Mother had seen Tinkari perform in Vilva Mangal Thakur. Ashutosh Mitra recalled the visit. Tinkari, the famous actress, came to visit Holy Mother, and Sister Lakshmi asked her to sing a song. Tinkari said hesitatingly, "What kind of song shall I sing for you?" Holy Mother replied, "It will be wonderful if you sing that song of Pagalini from Vilva Mangal." Tinkari had performed in that role. She got ready to sing. It was 9:30. We were busy working downstairs. Suddenly we heard Tinkari's sweet and melodious voice singing to the Chayana tune, "He, Krishna, travels holding my hand." We stopped our work and went upstairs to listen to her sing. Sharat Maharaj was writing something. He dropped his pen and became absorbed in the music. Yogin Ma was cutting vegetables. She also went upstairs. The cook and servants also stopped what they were doing and went upstairs to listen to the song. When I went upstairs, I noticed that Holy Mother had finished her worship and was listening to the song, sitting on the floor. Tinkari sat on the little veranda near the entrance to the Master's shrine. We felt that her overflowing devotion was reverberating throughout the entire house through her singing. "Hey, Krishna travels holding my hand. Wherever I go, he follows me. Even if I don't ask him to." That's the part of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Mother looked at the Master's photo and then closed her eyes. After a while, she opened her eyes, but we felt she was indrawn. Her eyes were open, but she was not seeing anything. Tinkari continued, "He wipes my face with great care. and intently looks at my face. When I smile, he smiles. And when I cry, he cries. He takes care of me. How lovingly he takes care of me. The whole house was completely still, as if no one were there. Everyone was overwhelmed and absorbed in an exalted mood. Was it the influence of Tinkari's singing or Holy Mother's spiritual power? Who could say? Tinkari finished the last lines of that song. So I came to know who says that the precious one does not exist. Come and see for yourself whether it is true or false. He is talking to me with great love. Holy Mother expressed in an ecstatic mood. Aha. Tinkari finished her singing. Holy Mother remained in that condition for a while, and silence prevailed. Then she wiped her eyes and said to Tinkari, "What a beautiful song you have sung today, my child."
And the person asking the question, was it Holy Mother's mood or the song, is missing the point. Together, these things did this. The song and it's like a rising upward spiral of two things together. You can visualize it in your mind. The mother singing, the actress singing so beautifully and meaningfully, and that it created this mood in the mother, which then would further inspire the actress to sing even more meaningfully, and so on. So it's not as if there was one or the other that was causing this reverberation throughout the house. There is, after all, only one. Only one. And so when these things happen, that's the subtext. The one is becoming known to us, and of course it is overpowering. So we'll leave it at that. We'll pick it up after the first of the year with strange visitors.
Strange visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Haima, for your reading, for your very skillful reading and your very thoughtful reading.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
When you choose to read things over, you're making very good choices. And for all of you who come to be with the Mother on these Tuesday evenings, it's beyond expression how precious it is. The holy company and the atmosphere that is created as we manifest the oneness of our being behind the appearance of our separation. So until we meet again, there will be no class tomorrow, no Wednesday class. There will be a final Saturday class. Isn't that right, Haima? There's no class tomorrow? Yeah.
Yes, Brother Shankara.
There'll be a final Saturday class this coming Saturday. Or did we discontinue that class as well?
No, I don't think so. We only have
Okay.
one more page left, I think.
Okay,
We're almost at the end of the book,
okay,
Realizing God. Yeah.
So we'll finish that up, and then that'll be the last class for Saturday, for the rest of the year. So, of course, the Sundays will continue. This coming Sunday, the topic is Raja Yoga of Lord Jesus Christ. And for those of you who don't know about the Raja Yoga that Christ taught, you may be interested to give a listen. It's really quite intriguing how much of a Raja Yogi Christ was, and the Raja Yoga that he taught. Not so much in the canonical Gospels, but in the other Gospels that have been adjudged to be authentic. The Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, and so on. Well, there's some in the canonical Gospels as well. The four, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So that'll be this coming Sunday. And then, of course, on the 26th, we will observe Holy Mother's birthday. And we will probably do it with a simple worship done from here rather than a puja, because Aditya Chaturvedi is in near Chicago. He's visiting his sister and others near Chicago. So he won't be back by the 26th. So we'll probably just do as we do on the, I forgot to mention the Christmas Eve worship on the 24th. There will be a Christmas Eve worship. There are traditional simple one, and there'll be some singing of Christmas carols and a recitation of the Christmas story. The one that was this particular version was set down by my grandmother Una Moore in 1949. So that's the one we use. So those are the activities for the rest of this year. And then, of course, on the night of New Year's, there's our midnight meditation. All this is in the newsletter and on the calendar, on the website, and so on. And then, of course, on January 1st, we will observe Kalpataru Day. Any final comments or questions from anyone? All right, dears. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved Lord, lead us from this realm of noisy confusion and delusion to thine abode of silence and clarity. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through thy everlasting shining presence. O dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this your jungle world. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. May we be safe, may we be healthy, may we be cheerful, may we have peace of mind, and go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So happy holy days, joyous holy days with your loved ones and those that you gather with over the next days through the end of the year. And we'll start with all of our texts and so on in January. Any final thought from anyone?
Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om, dear. Okay, good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.